is next up. Well, we've still got the Liverpool game, so Game Week 2 isn't over yet, but we are looking forward towards Game Week 3 as we try and fix our sides. A lot of people trying to fix their sides, even though I'm not overly happy, but I did have Aguero as captain. I took the risk literally maybe a minute or two before deadline. I changed back to Aguero as captain, and I was very happy with my decision. Of course, 3 goals, 1 assist. Of course, what is everybody drinking? I've got Tropical Crush soft drink of some variation, and we do have a bunch of familiar names in the chat. We have Krishnaraj. Of course, the first name has to be one that I struggle to pronounce. Buster's Army, Alan Arjaninovich, Bill X, Ketan, Only One Archie, Neil, Sam Cartwright, Daniel Bedborough, Blessing of Rolo in the chat as well, Jack Morgan in the chat, Aaron Chen, and plenty more. Matthew Berry, I see you in the chat as well. So we're starting off the stream strong, and the first topic I want to talk about is a question brought to us by Renegade Master on Twitter. And if you do have questions for the streams, then feel free to tweet them at me and we can start the streams off with them. And he asked, would you prioritise getting an additional premium defender over a budget striker? Example, I have 3 times £6 million defenders already. Do I take Alonso or get Wilson as a third striker? Now, for me, as we change screens, I personally think 3 premium price defenders is enough. If you've got 3 already, I wouldn't consider bringing in a 4th. I know you could be playing 4-4-2, 4-5-1. For me, I feel like the priority is midfield right now for points, and there's maybe 3 defenders that look really, really promising at the moment. I think Alonso, Mendy and Robertson are the 3 defenders. If you're going to spend 6 million, maybe 6.5 for Alonso, then go for that. Otherwise, I don't really see any other option in that kind of price range where I think I have to have them right now. So I wouldn't prioritise a defender over a budget striker or another midfielder if you've already got 3. If you've got 2 and you really want to bring in someone, then potentially. But for me, midfield is where the points are. I think Richarlison has to be a major consideration for us now after returning in 2 game weeks. It could be he has a similar season to last year where he has a great start and then boils off. But we should take advantage of that great start if he does have a great start. I also think you do have the likes of Callum Wilson, Mitrovic, Danny Ings, all looking promising as budget strikers as well. And to be honest, apart from Aguero, a lot of the premium price strikers aren't performing. So for me, there is room to get points in that budget striker bracket. So I wouldn't prioritise defenders unless, if you've only got 1 premium price defender, I'd maybe suggest getting Mendy if you don't have Mendy, because Mendy has looked ridiculously good out wide on the left. And I know there's a chance of rotation. However, you just got to take the good with the bad with Pep, unfortunately. If rotation is a thing, potentially I'll take 1 player out and just stick with Aguero and Mendy. Take out Silva, potentially, because he played out right, and I wasn't too sure about him playing out wide on the right. He moved into the centre when Silva came off, David Silva, but he didn't look like he was as involved playing out on the right, which I didn't particularly like. But we'll see. It's 1 game, played against Huddersfield. They did really well, 6 goals scored. And I had 2 of the players that were really involved with the goal, so I was happy with that. So I would say make sure to have a fully balanced team. You don't have to just spend all your money and blow it on the defence, although there does seem to be some great value in defence at the moment. Okay, so let's get to some questions from the chat as we have over 145 people watching. We've got Devang Relan asking Alonso for Walker. I think with Alonso's underlying stats at the moment and his ability to convert chances and to create chances, I think Alonso could still be the best defender in the game, apart from maybe Mendy. I think Mendy might outshine Alonso this year, but other than that, maybe Robertson does well as well. Potentially, I could see Robertson outshining Alonso, but I think we've got 3 really good options, and I think Walker may fail to keep up with those three options. So for me, Alonso over Walker anytime. We got a lot of people hoping for a good game from Liverpool tonight. I mean, I have Salah. I don't mind him scoring, but I don't want him to score too much. If we have a look at my side, you can see that, unfortunately for me, Peltier didn't play, and he would have got a clean sheet if he played, most likely. And also, someone else didn't play. I'm sure someone else didn't play. Sanchez didn't play either. So I've got two subs coming in. It's going to be Townsend and Wan-Bissaka. So for me, rank-wise, it would be a really great week for Crystal Palace to upset Liverpool for me. If that happens and Townsend or Wan-Bissaka return points, then I think my rank could increase quite significantly. Because the likes of Robertson, I think a lot of people own Liverpool defenders. And the likes of Salah, I think a lot of people have captained him. So it's strange, but Salah not playing would be great for me. I know it wouldn't be great for everyone else, don't get me wrong, and I'm not wishing that upon anyone, but I'm just saying if it happened, that would probably really benefit my ranking. So, good options in Game Week 3 from Mohamed Naguib. We're going to have a look at the fixtures. And I mean, off the top of my head, I should have a good idea of who's in form and who isn't. So, we've got Huddersfield versus Cardiff. I mean, if you have a Huddersfield player, this may be a time when they bounce back, but I mean, you're not going to bring a Huddersfield player in for just one game. Liverpool have Brighton, so that's at home. I think you've got Salah, Mane, great options. Firmino, we'll have to see how he does tonight, but I think Salah and Mane are the best options. Defence, I mean, we all know what Liverpool is capable of. Robertson's probably the best defensive option. As we go back to this. So, yeah, I'd say Liverpool, you're looking at Brighton Hove Albion at home, should be easy points for Liverpool players. You've then got Cardiff against Huddersfield, so that could go either way. If you've got a Cardiff defender, they could maybe get a clean sheet again, but be careful if you tried Peltier because he got dropped, of course, in Game Week 2. We've got Burnley against Fulham, so if you've got Goodmanson, if you've got Wood, potentially their defenders, Tarkowski, me, Loughton, Ward, those are the kind of players I'd look at Burnley. If you're playing a wild card, I wouldn't necessarily think these are going to be your prioritised transfers at this stage in the game as a Burnley player. Bournemouth have Everton. Callum Wilson has looked very good. And then Everton have Bournemouth, of course. So Richarlison, Wilson, I can see goals in that game. Both sides have conceded goals. Bournemouth probably looking defensively a little bit better than Everton, but to be honest, it's Bournemouth, so both sides I don't think have a good defence, so I could see that game having a lot of goals. I wouldn't necessarily play an Everton centre back. Maybe their wing backs, you can play full backs, Coleman and Baines. As for Bournemouth, Wilson looks the main man. I did like the look of Brooks though as well. Arsenal have West Ham. Arsenal's fixtures now get very easy, but you all know that. The player I like the look of the most out of Arsenal at the moment is Mkhitaryan. He's played in both games. There is still the chance of rotation now that the fixtures are easier. Is Lacazette and Aubameyang going to start? My money on the form that I've seen would be Özil gets dropped, and we have Mkhitaryan, Aubameyang and Lacazette, but that's my guess. I wouldn't put it past West Ham to score against Arsenal though, so I wouldn't go for any Arsenal defenders. Leicester Southampton could go either way, but we know Maddison looks good for Leicester. Not great underlying stats last game week though, Game Week 2. Southampton, you've got Danny Ings looking like the best option there. Cedric had a decent attempt at goal during his game, so Cedric may be an option if you're looking for a cheap defender. Watford Crystal Palace is very interesting. Again, depending on how Crystal Palace do tonight, I could see that game going either way, but Watford with Deeney and Andre Gray look very dangerous right now, as those two seem to be starting to click really well together. And that's probably where I would look at your points. You've got Tottenham, Man United. I fancy Spurs to win this, even though it's away, but that's just because of what I saw from Man United against Brighton. Potentially Man United could do better. Chelsea have Newcastle. It is away, but Chelsea on their current form. I can imagine Alonso, Pedro, Hazard, plenty of options in that Chelsea side. And then that's probably where I'll be looking for my transfers. So hopefully that covered pretty much every single option that you could consider there. Lyle Kruger. I had Aguero triple captain and the rest of my team was bad apart from Mendy. Thoughts on Eriksen? This is a very interesting one, isn't it? Who asked that? If I can find it again. MDG. So, I'll cover Eriksen and I see someone, Mateo, wants to talk about Lucas Moura as well. To be honest, I worry about Lucas Moura because of Lamela. I can see rotation potentially being there. I mean, don't get me wrong, Lucas Moura scored a great goal. But Lamela looked very dangerous when he came on as well. So, I would be worried about bringing either in. If I had one, I would probably keep them. But I would definitely be worried about bringing one of them in as a transfer. Because you want to kind of bring in players that are definitely going to be nailed on as possible anyway. And if they're not nailed on, you want to be pretty confident of their returns when they do play. So I wouldn't look at Lucas Moura or Eric Lamela right now until we get a better picture of who is the favoured one. As far as Eriksen, if they keep playing that 3-5-2, I feel like Eriksen isn't going to be involved as much as he potentially has been in previous seasons when he's played in different position, in different formation. Eriksen's underlying stats weren't amazing. He wasn't on set pieces. Kieran Trippier was given them. So that is a worry, of course. If we have a look at Eriksen's underlying stats, if I can find them. There we go. So Eriksen in the last match, we're looking at a player that had 5 attempts on goal, which isn't bad for a midfielder. 3 from inside the box, 1 shot on target. So his attempts was attempts every 18 minutes. Chances created though, where Eriksen usually does quite well. He only created 1 chance. So that's 1 chance created in 90 minutes, which isn't great. Now, Eriksen, in comparison, the previous game week, had 2 shots on goal with 1 shot on target. So he had more shots on goal than before, but he created 5 chances in the game that was against Newcastle compared to the game against Fulham, not the greatest defence he's playing against ever, and he only created 1 chance in 90 minutes. So for me, that 3-5-2 looks like a bad thing for Eriksen, but possibly a great thing for Trippier as an option. However, Aurier is always there, which could be a worry as far as rotation. So Ben Davies, if Danny Rose moves, could be a really good option into that Spurs side. But yeah, Eriksen, I worry about. It's only 1 game, so let's wait and see. But yeah, it didn't look great for him in that game against Fulham. Do you think King will get a price reduction? Let's have a look. Is he looking like he's going to get one? To be honest, he is not that close to one yet that I can tell. I mean, it's still definitely possible this week because he's not done much compared to... I think Sanchez is definitely getting a drop, but King hasn't done much compared to Callum Wilson. So I do worry about having Joshua King as David Ribeiro joins the flock. Thank you so much, David. Good captain pick for Game Week 3. Damien, if I was going safe, I would go Mohamed Salah. If I was going for a bit of a risk, my captaincy pick for Game Week 3 would probably be... probably Callum Wilson, because he's at home against Everton. Not the greatest defence. He's on form. That would be a real outside pick. Man City are away, so I wouldn't necessarily go Aguero. Liverpool at home, safe pick is Salah. You could go for Mane, depends how much of a differential he is by that point. Those are the two sensible options in my mind. There is, of course, possibility for something to go crazy somewhere else. Troy Deeney, yeah. And Andre Gray, good options for Watford as captain. Those are probably the areas I'd look if you're going for a real differential. But for me, I can't look past Liverpool, not this early on. I took my risk last week. Yep, unfortunately the babies are crying, Bill X. I took my chance last week by picking Aguero and it worked. I don't want to push my luck, so you know. Do you think Chelsea would be able to keep clean sheets in the next few game weeks? I'd assume they would keep some, because if we look at their fixtures, the next 4 game weeks should see at least some sort of clean sheets. Newcastle away, Bournemouth at home, Cardiff away, at home, sorry, should get a clean sheet against Cardiff ideally. West Ham away. So I could see some clean sheets. Bournemouth look very good attacking wise, so maybe not there. But Cardiff have not looked good attacking. Newcastle haven't looked good attacking. So 2 out of 4 isn't bad. Of course, anything can happen in football, but defensively, Chelsea have conceded 21 shots on goal. That is worse than the likes of Man United, Man City, Liverpool. But to be honest, does it really matter if they actually got a keeper that's saving the chances? As far as big chances, Chelsea have conceded... Sorry, as far as shots on target, Chelsea have conceded 7, which is more than Liverpool, Man City, Tottenham. Of course, Liverpool only haven't played 1 game so far. How many big chances have they conceded? There we go. So, again, actually, Chelsea are pretty bad for that. But I suppose a lot of that may have come against Arsenal, conceding 6 big chances. But, to be honest, considering how many chances they conceded against Arsenal, the fact that they still only kept it at 2 was pretty decent. I think there should be clean sheets coming for Chelsea. Trippier did take corners, Jamesy. Will Aubameyang get a price reduction? I didn't see his name that high on the reduction list. It's possible, but I don't think it will happen tonight. Okay, thoughts on who to bring in for people who have used their wildcard. So if I was going to use my wildcard, and this may help some people, and it will give you an insight into the players I'm really looking at, I guess, as well. So if I was actually going to make a wildcard, keeper-wise, maybe Edison, but I'm pretty confident in keeping Mendy. I'm not sure what keeper I'd actually go for. You could take a risk with Arsenal now they've got easier fixtures. And then you get a 5 million option there. And then you could always put Hammer in for 4 million, and that's 9 million spent on your goalkeepers. But I'm sure goalkeepers isn't actually where people are interested anyway. If I was going wildcard, I would probably bring in... I cannot say that name, but thank you so much for joining the flock. I'll be looking at Alonso and Mendy. I think those are really good options. Depending on what Robertson does tonight, he would also be in consideration. If I was willing to spend 6 million on 3 defenders, and the 6.6 million, sorry, then all 3 of them would go in. But to be honest, Mendy and Robertson offer value for money, I feel, compared to Alonso. I mean, Mendy has gone up 0.2 now, but he's still 0.4 cheaper than Alonso, and is only 1 point behind him as far as his returns. So Mendy definitely offers that value that I think can counterbalance Alonso. I would probably go Wan-Bissaka still and Bennett, just because the funds aren't that high yet. Bennett being the Wolves defender instead of Peltier. Would I keep Shaw? It's very unlikely. Don't know who I'd bring in for him. Pereira's a possibility because he can get assists. You could, of course, look at the likes of Van Aanholt, Schlupp. course, 4.5 out of position. If he continues to play out of position, that could be a good shout, Schlupp, as one of your cheap defenders. Then you've got midfield. I'd keep Salah. I'd definitely keep Salah. Bernardo Silva, after the game against Huddersfield, I'm not so sure about anymore. If he'd played centre, I think he would still be an option. Sanchez is definitely out. Townsend is probably definitely out. Stevens could keep his place just as a cheap placeholder. But in midfield, I'd definitely be wanting Richarlison in. Fraser is a possibility for a cheap option. Pedro gives you cheap Chelsea coverage. Depends if you're looking at Hazard, but I don't think we should consider Hazard until he's got a full 90 minutes on his belt. Mane, is it a bit late to double up on Liverpool? As I think they get tougher fixtures from game week 5 onwards. Mkhitaryan looked very good. Arsenal have good fixtures, so maybe Mkhitaryan and Richarlison coming in for Bernardo Silva and Townsend. If I was going for a premium priced midfielder, then Mane would come in for Sanchez, potentially even with the tough fixtures. You could look at Dele Alli, but I'm not sure what his fixtures actually look like off the top of my head. You could probably wait a bit for that. This period here would be an okay period to bring him in though. And then up front, I'd go Aguero, and then I'd pick 2 cheap strikers. So Wilson looks very good at the moment, but it'd be interesting for me to compare their underlying stats. Wilson and Deeney both on 14. Arnautovic I'm waiting to bring in. Mitrovic had good underlying stats. Ings has looked promising and it's the cheapest. But it'd be very interesting to see, like, head to head, what those cheaper strikers actually look like. So that is how the kind of players I would consider if I was playing a wild card. As we had Walid and Shafiq both joining the flock. Thank you so much for joining the flock. 334 people watching. So thank you so much for everyone joining in on the stream. Is it safe to bet on Morata given the favourable run of fixtures? I wouldn't say it's safe, purely because I think you've got safer options like Pedro, like Alonso, that you could bring in to cover those fixtures. Don't get me wrong, I still think Morata could be a great player. I think he's just had such a knock of confidence that we need that confidence to come back. So as soon as it does come back, he could be a great shout. You could take the risk. Completely depends on your situation and if you're willing to take the risk. But if you are willing to take the risk, then yeah, go ahead. Morata could do really well, but it's not someone I'd have confidence in. As far as Ramsey, a good option into the Arsenal team. Again, the fact that he didn't start against Chelsea, a game where I thought him starting would have been a good idea, then I'm unsure on Ramsey. I would have loved Ramsey if he was starting, but because he wasn't, I'm not too sure. Ashley Kerr, all my stats come from Fantasy Football Scout. If you go to team stats and defending, they have big chances there. Will Hazard start this week? Gary Bofa, if I had to guess, I would probably, as we got Rofatos subscribing, I think 2 game weeks is enough rest for Hazard. I'd potentially see him starting next game week. Thoughts on Firmino? MDG right now, not really sure about him compared to Mane and Salah. Shashank, thank you very much for the reminder. There's polls in the... if you click the eye on the top right of the screen, you can vote in polls. The questions are, how many transfers are you making for game week 3? I still don't know. I might actually make 3, to be fair. Then there's also how many players left to play. That's for the Crystal Palace and Liverpool game. I've actually got 4 or more. What's your score so far in game week 2? And then the final question, who has your captain armband for game week 2? So mine was, of course, on Sergio Aguero, which I was very happy about. Renault Ferrari, 90 points in 2 game weeks isn't actually that bad. It's averaging out at about 45. So, not about 45, it is averaging at 45. So 45 isn't bad. It seems to be this game week, or these 2 game weeks, as Trevor Steadman joins the flock, thank you so much, that people are scoring very, very high I don't remember people scoring this high at the beginning of last season. So keep at it. You can come back. I've come back from awful ranks, like 2 million plus. So it's possible to come back. Joe Nagulis is saying, get in Pereira for sure. Pereira's playing as a winger. Look at his heat map. So you know what? Because you're bringing up an argument, I will have a look. So if I get up, which one can I see first? Ricardo Pereira. And we'll compare the stats as well as his heat map. And then compare him to Shaw. Okay, so Luke Shaw's heat map. You know what? Relatively speaking... Oh, that's the previous game week. I want current game week. Okay, Ricardo Pereira's heat map from game week 2 is a lot more advanced. Ricardo Pereira's 58% overall stat summary winning against 42% for Luke Shaw. You've got Shaw already increasing 1.1 in price as Mateo Lewis joins the flock. Thank you so much. They both got an assist over the weekend, although Shaw's is the debatable assist. By the way, what do people think of Mendy? I don't think Mendy's run where the ball fell to Jesus was an assist, but otherwise the other two were assists. That's my thought on it. Scott Greenway has joined the flock as well. Thank you so much. So we got shots on goal. Shaw actually had 2 shots, one from inside the box. Minutes per attempt 45. Pereira had no shots on goal, but chances created. Pereira won by just 1. But final third, successful passes. 9 successful passes to 5 for Pereira. It's not as I thought it was going to be a bit of a whitewash, but the stats don't suggest it's that much of a whitewash. I mean, 7 penalty area touches to Luke Shaw's 1. I mean, that is pretty telling. But I definitely consider it, because I do want Luke Shaw at my side. I do not like the look of that Man United defence after that last game. Should we play Pereira over Ricarlison? Pereira had a good start in Watford playing at home, but Crystal Palace having some good stats defensively-wise. Both CBs have a good run on Crystal Palace. Pereira over... I don't know. Right now, I think it's a bit risky not playing Ricarlison, because I'm presuming his ownership has shot up in quite considerably. If we look by ownership, team selected by... Carlson's the second highest owned midfielder in the game. If you're playing it safe, you'd go Ricarlison. If you were taking a risk, Pereira would be a decent risk, but I don't know what his stats were like, as we have DJ Zeesh joining the flock. So what we want to do is look at Pereira. There he is. So Pereira in the current game week, were his stats as good as the previous game week? To be honest, his stats were pretty poor in the game against Bournemouth, where they scored 3 goals. So I probably wouldn't risk Pereira, because no goal attempts and 1 chance created is not something to like shout home about. Thoughts on playing both Aguero and Auber up front together? It could work. You're right, Andy. Good to see you in the chat. Right now, I feel like there's so much value in midfield that 2 premium price strikers potentially isn't necessary, especially if you have Salah. Could it work? Of course it could. Aubameyang has really good fixtures. Right now, as far as fixture ease goes, West Ham, Cardiff, Newcastle, Everton, Watford. Now, potentially Everton, Watford, both home fixtures for the record. The form those 2 sides are on, maybe it'd be a bit of a game, but against West Ham. West Ham's defence does not look good, and Arsenal are playing them at home. Cardiff and Newcastle do not look like much of a threat at all. So Aubameyang definitely got in the position to score goals against Chelsea. He just was poor in front of goal. And to be fair to him, he's not usually poor in front of goal from what we've previously seen. So I would say potentially that would be a good gamble. Is it something I'm going for? To be fair, I'm quite happy with Aguero as my main premium price striker. I don't think I need to change that right now. So that's probably not the move I'd make, but it could definitely work. Yeah, just in case anyone didn't know that in the chat, as Bambi Lamb joins the flock, you don't get the price increases. If you sell, you only get half of what the price increase is, as long as it's 0.1 million or up. So if you have 0.2 million price increase and you sell, you only make 0.1 million. If you've got 0.3 million price increase and you sell, you still only get 0.1 million. You need 0.4 million to get 0.2. You need 0.6 million price increase to get 0.3, so on and so forth. So if anyone's thinking of making transfers to increase their value, team value, only do it at increments of 2.2. Robert Moore, I definitely agree. David Brooks looked very good in the past 2 game weeks. I think, for me, David Brooks, potentially Will Hughes, and then still Neves, because Neves could have scored in his game. I think those, to me, are looking like the best £5 million midfielders. So those would be the ones I'd look at if you need someone in that budget, as we've got Tashi joining the flock. But I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to spend the majority of my budget on midfield, I'm probably not going to pick any of those. We shall see. I mean, underlying stats, Will Hughes could be absolutely great, but I didn't notice great stats. The one I noticed was David Brooks. David Brooks had the good underlying stats that actually grabbed my attention. As Luke, left back Luke, is that Luke Shaw, has joined the flock. Thank you so much. So, someone's asked me who I'm going to put in goal out of the 2 options that I have. And again, as usual, drinking fizzy drinks on stream isn't the best idea, but I've got Fabianski and I've got Patricio. I would go Fabianski, I think, because if I'm going for a team that I think are going to score goals, to be fair, my goalkeeper situation is not great for this game week. I think this is the only game week where it's really, really bad. I could be lying, of course, but we shall see in the future. But I think Fabianski is the one I'm going to go for, although it is at Arsenal's home and then Patricio, City away. But it's Man City. I'm not sure I could ever confidently put a keeper in against Man City. And to be fair, I managed to get it right last week between Fabianski and Patricio, which gained me 1 point, because Fabianski got 2 and I believe Patricio got 1. Reveal Motion says the guy first overall is his dad. It's very interesting. King to Wilson, Jaron Ong, I think it's a great move. Might as well do it. As Gengu joins the flock. Thank you so much. To be honest, I don't think I've played the game long enough. Who asked that question? Taylor Wilson. I don't think I've played the game long enough to know why they sell at 0.1 million, half of the transfer value. I'm assuming potentially it was because some people just abused the system early on and just got such a high team value that they could just pick a ridiculous team. I'm assuming it's there to cap us on how good a team we could actually make. So that's my only guess as to why. Otherwise, it would be really, really easy to make a lot of money very early on. What do I think about Edison's assist? I think it was an incredible ball. I do not know what the defender was thinking with Aguero, because you can't be offside from a goal kick. So just who leaves Aguero unmarked with no one behind him between him and the goal? Who does that? Parvinder, don't worry, I'll be ditching Sanchez. I picked Sanchez because I was worried that Man United might have a good start to the season with their first 2 fixtures and that I needed someone in there to cover those 2 fixtures. I was wrong. And, okay, Pogba would have done fine. And I was going to change to Pogba, but the site crashed. But yes, I'm getting rid of Sanchez. Do not worry. Sanchez will be gone. I'm potentially going to make moves that make it possible for me to easily bring in Hazard if I think Hazard looks very good. But Sanchez will be going this week. Peltier over Townsend, Christy95, was not a risky move because Peltier didn't play. So Townsend will play for my side as long as he's in the starting 11 today. I can see so many people talking about Sanchez. I get it. He wasn't a good pick. I mean, he did get me an assist, which is more than Townsend's done for me so far. And more than King has done for me. Mkhitaryan or Maddison? I think with Arsenal's current fixtures, I'd go Mkhitaryan if you think he's going to start. I do like the look of Maddison, but his underlying stats against Wolves were not great. So anyone that is thinking about when Andy is streaming, it should be tonight, I believe. 9:30, I believe he starts. So if you want to catch Andy's stream, 9:30 tonight. I think just before the Liverpool game finishes. Andy will correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, go check that out. Another stream for you guys to ponder over the questions of FPL. Also, if you do want to be involved in the streams more often and you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. Also, put notifications on, because if you put notifications on, you will be told when I go live and you can just join the chat and ask each other questions as well as me. I'm not always right, as you can see with that Sanchez pick. Hammer or Etheridge for Huddersfield versus Cardiff? I'd go with Huddersfield's keeper. So I'd go Hammer. I just feel like Cardiff really don't offer much attacking threat. Which players am I taking out? Now, of course, there could be something that happens that makes me consider something different. Sanchez comes out because then it's just so easy for me to make moves. At his current price, if I take him out, I then have 10.5 million. And it should be easy to bring in pretty much anyone I want. Then potentially King going. Could be Townsend. Defensively, I think Shaw probably will have a stay of execution. Unless I go for free changes. But unless Townsend does something against Liverpool, Sanchez, King, and then possibly Shaw, possibly Townsend. But we shall see. That I wasn't actually meant to click, so don't worry about that. Although if you were interested, there you go. Manan, Captain Mendy, the first and last time he's doing it. To be honest, Mendy just looks incredible, especially as a left wing back. If he stays as a left wing back, if they keep playing 3-5-2, I think Mendy could be like the player of the season. Paul Geedy and where is it? Someone else said it as well. That Etheridge has saved 2 penalties. Yes, he has. Do I think he'll continue to save penalties? Do I think there'll be penalties in every game he plays? No. So don't get me wrong. If you had Etheridge for these first 2 game weeks, you'd be very, very happy with yourself. But I don't think it's going to continue. Matey24, Mendy for me right now over Alonso. I just think... I mean, Alonso's probably more nailed on, but he's more expensive, and I think Mendy offers just as much attacking threat as Alonso. He hasn't returned the goals yet, but other than that, you're still getting very, very similar points, and you're using a cheaper player. Let's talk FPL. Andy, to be fair with Shaw, I have a bad habit of, when I see a bad defensive performance, I often make the move early. I'm not going to lie, that's one of my flaws as a player of the game. I do not like watching a game and looking at a defence and thinking, I don't think this defence is going to get clean sheets. And I believe last year, I did say something similar about Man United, and then they went and got quite a few clean sheets. So maybe I need to check myself, because I think potentially Shaw has got lucky with his return so far, is my feeling. And they've not kept a clean sheet yet. So that is why I'm thinking of getting rid of Shaw. Because I personally don't think either of his returns make me think, yes, he's going to keep doing that. They're not finishes like Alonso has made, or assists like Mendy has made, if you get my opinion. But yeah, at 5 million, right now he's probably not the most urgent thing. Sanchez is probably the most urgent transfer to make. And probably King, which straight swap to Wilson potentially. I think that's safer than going Ings, just because I think, I don't know, I prefer Bournemouth as an attacking team than I do Southampton. Not that I'm necessarily saying Ings won't come in as well. I think Ings and Wilson could allow me to do a lot in my midfield. Sorry, I'm just checking something. So you can see if I click on anyone's information on there. Yeah, I keep it that way on purpose, whoever was asking about the fact that I can't see everything that I'm clicking. Yeah, I mean, a lot of you are bringing up a good point about Danny Ings. He has had a very good amount of shots on goal. Aguero, Mitrovic, Ings, Wilson, I think those are kind of the players with the good amount of shots on goal that you can think about. As Mikel joins the flock, thank you so much. Danny Ings is definitely in my consideration. Just, I really like the look of Wilson. In the games I've seen him playing recently, he's looked really, really good. So, not 100% sure if I would definitely go Wilson, because the reason I had King was I liked their fixtures. Bournemouth's fixtures now, of course, aren't as great. I mean, it's Everton next, then it's Chelsea, then it is Leicester, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Watford. So I may stick with that, whereas Southampton's fixtures do have good free fixtures. Then Liverpool, Wolves, Chelsea, Bournemouth, it goes a bit up and down after that. So I don't know for definite which forward I'm going to bring in, but Sanchez is definitely leaving. Ricarlison most likely coming in, just because I think it's a bit risky not to bring him in now. I think his ownership's only going to keep increasing. As far as Mane, a good consideration, keeping in mind the up-and-coming fixtures. Liverpool can play and score against anyone. Like, if we think about last year, they beat teams like City with a lot of goals. So I know a lot of people are like, okay, they've got Brighton, Hove Albion, then Leicester, but then it's Tottenham, Southampton, Chelsea, Man City, Huddersfield. So that's 3 of the top 6 coming up for them before game week 9. So that's 6 game weeks, 3 tough fixtures. But it's Liverpool. They can score against anyone. They showed that last year. So I wouldn't say Mane is a bad option. I just think I've already got Salah, and the whole idea about me is I thought I don't need both, and potentially both would have been better than bringing in Sanchez. But say la vie, I've made that decision now, but I think Getting Richarlison in to cover the Everton games as well, just in case Liverpool have an off day, is probably the safer way to play it. Steph Christo asks, should they take hits for game week 3? Now, usually I'm anti making hits unless there is a clear reason to do so. I personally think this game week is probably an area where you could take a hit. I wouldn't take massive hits, but it's early on in the game. We want to get our teams as set as possible for the rest of the season. Right now, could you make those points up? You're giving yourself the most amount of time to make those transfer hits up. So what the community call it is a mini wildcard, where you take hits, you've saved up a transfer, so you've got 2 transfers, you then maybe make 1 or 2 more, so you've changed 3 to 4 of your players, and that potentially strengthens your team for the next 3 to 6 to 9 game weeks, however long you want to try and play it. So I definitely think it's the right time if you're that way inclined to take a transfer hit. But if your team's doing well, then you don't need to make a transfer hit. If your team's already doing well and you're looking at it and thinking it still looks good for game week 3, maybe just make the 1 transfer and then see and evaluate after game week 3. But if you need to, transfer hits this game week are, in my mind, acceptable. Carlo De Vito, 5th in my league at the moment. Well done, mate. Well done. So, John Mark Coty is looking to get rid of Ericsson because he's blanked 2 weeks in a row. Best midfielder replacement. I can't do any Man City or Liverpool players. And he has Richarlison, Mane, Salah and Jorginho. I mean, Pedro looks very good to me. Any other midfielders that are really standing out to me in that kind of price bracket of Ericsson? Already got Mane and Salah. There isn't many, really. You could take a punt on Hazard if he starts. I mean, Hazard has created 2 goals from very little game time, so he could be a shout. But otherwise, there aren't many, are there? I mean, Dele Alli would be a straight swap, and Dele Alli has done all right. Okay, so Akbar Badri asked for my picking order of Mkhitaryan, Willian and Walcott. For me, Mkhitaryan's the one that looks like he could be creating a lot of chances for that Arsenal side. So I'd go Mkhitaryan, then Willian over Walcott. Walcott's one of those players that can have really good game weeks, but I feel like sometimes he does just disappear, so potentially wouldn't be looking at him. Tom Cameron, these early streams catch me off guard. It actually may be the way forward because of my daughter, so early streams may be what we do, because it's going to get to a point now where we're going to start to try and put her to bed at a certain time, and when that starts to happen, then I won't be able to stream late at night. We've spoken about Pereira. I say Pereira's game week 2 wasn't that great. So I'm not as high on Pereira as I was after 1 game week. As far as Kante, I've also said I don't think he's that good in the final third. So while he is more advanced, I'm still not sure if he's going to return as many points as players that are more comfortable that further forward, who have better shots, someone like Ruben Neves. So for me, still not looking at Mendy. Sumak Saha, I can't see anything wrong with it as long as it doesn't make the rest of your team look weak. He asks, Mendy and Robertson, should I replace Daniels with Alonso? I think Mendy could just be your guy instead of Alonso, but if you want both, I can't necessarily argue with their returns. But if we compare Mendy versus Alonso to see if it's not just points, but if there is a good reason to maybe consider having both, or one is better than the other. Okay, so heat map wise, Mendy is a lot more attacking than Alonso, which is surprising that it's a lot more, but it's still more. We have 1 goal and 1 assist with 1 fantasy assist. So Alonso has 2 assists in total and then 1 goal. Mendy has 4 assists in total. Goals conceded, Man City of course conceded 1 less than Chelsea. Goal involvement, Mendy wins in actual goal involvement at 38 to 33%, but FPL goal involvement, which includes stuff like winning penalties and such, is at 50 each. Bonus points, Mendy looks like he, to be honest, is pretty here or there for bonus points. Penalty area touches, Mendy has beaten Alonso 8 to 6. Goal threat, goal attempts 6 to 5 in favour of Alonso. We've got attempts in the box 3 to 2 in favour of Alonso. Shots on target though, Mendy has 2 to Alonso's 1, but Marcus Alonso has one big chance and Mendy has 0. Minutes per attempt is better for Alonso as Akshay Wag joins the flock. So goal conversion is also better for Alonso, but shot accuracy is better for Mendy. As far as distribution goes, total passes in a game is higher for Alonso. In the final third, however, it's higher for Mendy. And assist potential, more through balls for Mendy, 2 to 0. Chances created, 5 to 3 in favour of Mendy. Assists, of course, is higher. Minutes per chance created, 36 minutes for every chance Mendy creates. And minutes per chance that Alonso creates is at 60. Now, I feel like Chelsea could be a lot more free-flowing this year and score more goals, but are they going to score more goals than City, and is Mendy going to be involved in as many as he already has been? I think it could be very, very close between Mendy and Alonso for the best defender to own in the game. You could just cover yourself and own both. I'm waiting to see Robertson's stats from this game week. Then when I've seen that, I'll kind of have a more nailed-on opinion, because having all 3 seems very, very expensive. That's 18.5 million on 3 defenders. Whereas 12 million on 2 premium price and then saving 1.5 million by bringing in a £5 million option. It sounds more sensible to me. But if Alonso, Mendy and Robertson keep getting attacking returns in attacking sides, they might be must own soon. But right now, I'm not really going for it. Crabstick, are you going to make your transfers early in case of price changes? Maybe with the Sanchez one. But you see, the problem I have with making an early transfer is if I then hear news like Kevin De Bruyne's injury last week, some people were burned by bringing in Kevin De Bruyne early because he played in game week 1. They thought, I want Kevin De Bruyne on my side, brought him in early, and then he got injured and he's out for 2 to 3 months. You've kind of wasted the transfer. For me, while team value is of some importance, because near the end of the season, the higher team value is, the more likely you are to be able to make the best bench boost side for a double game week possible, I also don't want to waste transfers. So I usually wait until the Friday or the Saturday to make my transfers. When I know a player is out, like Sanchez, potentially if I'm a bit worried about how much they might drop in price, then yes, I might consider transferring them out early. But in the likelihood is, unless I think it's going to be 0.2 million drop, I'm probably not going to make that transfer. Just because I don't want to bring in, say, Hazard and then I hear he's got an injury. I don't want to bring in Sterling and then hear he's got an injury. Not that I'd risk Sterling right now, I think Sterling will most likely play the next game for Man City, by the way, unless he's got some sort of knock we don't know about. But I want to bring in a player that at least will play the game week I brought him in. If they get injured after that, there's nothing I can do about that. So I probably won't make my transfers early. We've got Ashley Tatler joining the flock as well. Notorious Nerd, for me, underlying stats in the last game, Eriksen did not look good. He looked good against Newcastle. He did not look good against Fulham underlying stats-wise. So you could keep him. Man United might be there for the taking. And like I always say, you don't have to always rush a transfer. Maybe rushing Sanchez's transfer out would have been good, but I didn't know he was going to go and get injured as Nick Jones joins the flock. But I am one to say, don't rush into transfers just because of one game week. So if you think he could do something against Man United, he did have a good game against Newcastle, so it is possible. Notorious Nerd, you better get Richarlison before he becomes 7 million soon. Should I sell Aubameyang to get Mkhitaryan and Alonso? I mean, if you brought Aubameyang in, you brought him in for the fixtures that are up and coming. So I wouldn't sell Aubameyang yet, because you didn't bring him in for Man City and Chelsea. You brought him in for their next fixture. You brought him in for West Ham, you brought him in for Cardiff, you brought him in for Newcastle, you brought him in for Everton, Watford, Fulham, Leicester. So, for me, I would at least keep Aubameyang to see how he does against a weaker side. Another Hoops, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you in the chat. My game week score so far, so I did cover it at the beginning, but right now I am on 59 points with 4 left to play. However, 2 of them are Crystal Palace players. So Robertson, Salah, Townsend and Wan-Bissaka. I mean, 2 points to come in if Wan-Bissaka or Townsend don't play, because Peltier and Sanchez both didn't play. The story of my game week was Saturday was painful. Saturday was very, very painful. I think I ended Saturday on 1.5 million ranked. I've now got back up to 244,000. I was 243,000 after game week 1. So Aguero has pretty much balanced out the rest of my side. I've got 59 points, almost 60 points. 40 points, almost 2/3, over 2/3 in fact, has come from Aguero. And then 8 points has come from Mendy. Shaw turning up with 4 points. Then everyone else has done absolutely nothing, which is bad, but makes me happy that I picked Aguero, but also makes me think if I'd just kept Richarlison from my initial team before pre-season, before I made that late change, I could potentially have had a very good game week, or at least a rise in my ranking. We have, I cannot say that name, but thank you for joining the flock. We covered the wildcard team earlier, or at least who I'd look at bringing in. So, Bonnie Saha, there will be a video released of that bit of the stream that I did. I'm not going to do it again just for the people that have already watched, but we will cover that again. A troll have come Trollson. Don't take that big a point hit. If you're taking a point hit, at most take -4, maybe a -8 if you really want to, but not that big a point hit. If you want a wild card, potentially you could wild card now. I would ideally like to hold my wild card for a little bit longer, but yeah. Rocks Village, Alexis Sanchez for David Silva. Pep said David Silva won't play as much this season. Has just got a new kid born. I know he did very well, don't get me wrong, he did very well in the game against Huddersfield, but I'd potentially not go for David Silva. Is Genduzu worth picking up for the bench? If he's 4.5, any player is worth putting on the bench at 4.5. If he's playing, he's playing. If he doesn't play, it's not that big a deal for you, is it? So Genduzu could be a good look for the bench. Lad Doink, when Liverpool fixtures get tougher, game week 5 onwards, looking at Salah and Wilson to Orbit and Ali. I don't think I'll ever take Salah out my side, personally. Salah's capable of scoring against anyone. Liverpool are capable of scoring against anyone. It's a bit like Man City can score against anyone. What do I think about King? King needs to go. His underlying stats have been absolutely terrible. The flock, in case people don't know, the flock is you guys that join the stream. Jeff Holt, who's a regular participant in the streams, nicknames the my subscribers basically the flock. I've got a t-shirt with it on as well. But my surname, if you didn't know, is Parr, P-A-R-R, and Parr in golf is what you get when you get the same par 4. If you score 4, you get a par. It's kind of the average, I'm assuming it's the average amount of shots it takes to do a hole in. So, of course, around par, all the shots, apart from the bogey, are birds. So you've got a birdie, you've got an eagle, you've got an albatross. So, Jeff Holt came up with the flock. So that is why you guys are called the flock. Prediction of a best player award at the end of this season? No idea. It's way too early. I think Aguero's hungry this year, though. Do I get rid of King or Jota, and for who? I mean, right now, both aren't looking great. Richarlison is slightly more expensive, but if you can get him in, Richarlison or Richarlison is the easiest option for the midfielder. For King, Callum Wilson and Danny Ings both look like great options, so it's easy to make those moves because they're cheaper. My opinion on Toussaint, I was hoping for something from him, to be fair, in Game Week 2, but nothing happened there. If we go all matches, total attempts, Toussaint must be somewhere in the first page, surely. There he is. So, Cenk Toussaint, so far, has had 4 shots on goal, 2 from inside the box, shots on target 3, minutes per attempt 39, created 1 chance which got him an assist. I mean, they're not too much worse than Richarlison's, but Richarlison has actually got us points. So Toussaint doesn't look awful, but he's not the best looking striker so far in that kind of price bracket. What formation will I use this game week? If I was picking a team right now, without any transfers, I don't know, Watford just have looked good, haven't they? So Robertson and Mendy would stay in because their fixtures look good. Peltier I need to look into. I fancy Palace more to keep a clean sheet than... No, I can't take Shaw out. And I can't not have... So Wan-Bissaka could actually get some game time. I mean, with Sanchez not playing, it would look like something like that without any transfers. But of course, the transfers would change it. If Richarlison came in for Sanchez, or whoever come in for Sanchez is probably going to play. And then Wan-Bissaka out. First sub, in case someone doesn't play. I really feel like Cardiff-Huddersfield could be a really boring game. Potential for a clean sheet there. Stevens is probably always going to be in this slot. I don't really... Stevens didn't have a bad game, by the way, for Brighton. He had a good game, but I don't think he's going to return many FPL points. Nicholas C, who is more likely to be benched when Hazard plays, Pedro or Willian? I'm not going to lie to you, I have no idea. As far as minutes played, if we go to teams, Chelsea, Pedro's played 171, Willian 137, but that could be because of Willian's World Cup. So Willian's been substituted off first. I really don't know. I just, there's no way for me to know. I'm not even, I don't know what Sarri is like as a manager. So for me to give you an answer would just be a pure stab in the dark. Looking at the fixtures, could you justify having 3 players from Chelsea, Liverpool and City? I don't see enough Chelsea players that demand my attention in the way where I'd triple up on Chelsea. So no would be my answer to that. JNO, what are your thoughts on Steve Cook from Bournemouth? I don't like Bournemouth's defence unless you're picking them just for attacking returns. Because Bournemouth defence just is nothing like it was the year they got promoted. He's a decent option at his price range. Not necessarily someone I'm desperate to have in my side just because of 1 return. I mean, was he that good? Was his underlying stats that amazing? Okay, so as far as shots on goal, he's had 1 attempt and it's gone in. And as far as chances created, he's created 1 chance and got an assist. So, do I think that will continue? No. Like, it would be wishful thinking to think every chance he creates goes in and every shot on goal he has goes in. Neil Craston thinks Pedro is nailed. To be honest, the way managers are nowadays, I'm never sure if anyone's nailed. Viper XZ, Richarlison I think is a safe bet because of his ownership. Mkhitaryan also looks very, very good. Would I say either of them are must-haves? I'm not sure either are must-haves right now. I consider a must-have player someone like Aguero or Salah. Like Richarlison wasn't the best scoring midfielder this game week. It'd be crazy if he was, and I've just said that. But if we look at midfielders and round score, Walcott, Mkhitaryan and Grosh all outscored Richarlison. So, yes, the game week before, don't think I can just show that, but yes, the game week before he was one of the highest scoring midfielders with 14 points, with I think Roberto Pereira. But to be must-have, you'd be getting scores like Aguero. Like, if we go forwards for this game week, yes, he didn't have a great first game week, but apart from Troy Deeney, he outscored every striker by at least 12 points. So that kind of player to me is must-have. That is. So if Richarlison keeps scoring the way he is every game, then he becomes must-have. But it's only 2 game weeks so far. Bernardo Silva, Felix Tan may be safe, but what I will say is I've been a big supporter of Bernardo Silva. I really thought with what Pep said about him and the way he's played recently that, yes, he's a great way into that City side. He looks nailed on. What could be his fault is that he's versatile. He can play out wide, he can play in the middle. He did not look like an FPL threat. He had a decent game, but he did not look like an FPL threat out wide on the right. Now, the reason I think he played in that game was because if you're going for a 3-5-2, I think Mahrez will not be as good defensively as Silva. I think Silva is potentially more rounded player, and that is why he played on the right in that 3-5-2. But that wasn't beneficial for him as an attacking player. I think he's much more effective attacking-wise in the middle. So if he's going to keep being a utility player, then I'm not sure Silva's actually the best way into that Man City side. I'm leaning towards, after watching that game, considering Mendy and Aguero, and then that's it. And then if I think City are just going to be clean sheet magnets, then maybe bring in Edison as well, because he is nailed on. So I'm not as high on Bernardo Silva as I was before game week 2. And Kemon Shang, thank you so much for joining the flock. Mane, Edison and Richarlison projected to rise tonight. I'll wait for after the game because I think I've got time to consider Mane over Richarlison, because Sanchez will go tonight most likely. Then I can just bring in Mane or Richarlison. I don't know how to say his name, but I'll consider one of them. Fortnite Highlight says, I'm hoping for a Palace win with a Salah hat-trick. I think Liverpool will win. I think Salah or Mane will score. But for my rank, a Palace win with Salah not scoring and Mane not scoring would be very good. Maybe a Palace win with a Robertson goal would be amazing for me. But I think Liverpool will win and at least score 2. Nick Jones, I use Fantasy Football Scout. There is also Fantasy Football Fix. Those are the 2 main sites I'm aware of that you can use. Aaron Chen, should I take David De Gea off for a cheaper goalkeeper? What do you think? And then I'll get to Amos Boff, Zaha or Arnautovic. What I will say is the reason I never go for a really expensive goalkeeper is because if they suddenly aren't performing, that's a lot of money for a player that isn't performing. Whereas I feel like having a cheaper goalkeeper, if they don't perform, I'm not too bothered about it because I've got money in players that I feel more confident in. And now with a keeper, one moment of madness can take away the clean sheet. You can have a bad defence in front of you that suddenly just aren't playing that well, and you don't keep the clean sheet. And unless you're Edison, you're not likely to get assists or goals. So that's why I very, very rarely, if ever, have gone with an expensive goalkeeper. So now you've got that issue of, do I keep David De Gea because he's that expensive, whereas I'm using my transfers elsewhere. And I think ideally you want to pick your keepers and not change them unless you're going for a wild card. That's the way I look at it. As far as Zaha versus Arnautovic, of course, Zaha hasn't played this game week yet. So, and last game week it was West Ham were facing Liverpool, so Arnautovic didn't have the easiest of opponent. But if I look at them separately for Zaha's first game week, and then maybe have a look at Arnautovic's current game week, I can't compare those, unfortunately. Or actually, can I? I think I might be able to compare those. Let's have a look. Apologies if I can't compare these, as we have Nico003 joining the flock. Thank you so much. So we go previous game week and then compare. Yeah, it looks like it works. So, I mean, heat maps, can't really tell much, kind of similar positioning. Arnautovic had a much better game against Bournemouth than Zaha had against, was it Fulham they played, I believe, first game week. So we've got attempts on goal, 4 for Arnautovic and 3 for Zaha in those respective games. From inside the box, 3 and 2 in favour of Arnautovic. You've got big chances. Zaha actually had more big chances though, but they both scored 1 big chance each. Attempts on goal, Arnautovic actually had better attempts on goal per minute. Shot accuracy was better and goal conversion was better for Zaha because he had less attempts. Chances created in favour of Arnautovic though, quite easily. So Arnautovic looks the better option when you're looking at the stats. Then when you look at the fixtures, Palace have Watford, Southampton, Huddersfield, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Wolves, Everton. Whereas West Ham have Arsenal next, Wolves and Everton, but then it's Chelsea, Man U, then it's Brighton, then it's Tottenham. So for me, Zaha would be the more logical pick right now. To be honest, I'm probably transferring out Sanchez. Sanchez is probably the way I'm going to go as far as transferring out players. Robert Moore predicting Firmino to outscore Mane. That would be interesting because I think a lot of people still own Firmino. Viper X, Sanchez will definitely go. Shaw's maybe stays for another game week. Player price rises and drops happen overnight. I'm not sure about the exact time. -8 to bring in Aguero, bad decision. I mean, Aguero is always very good at home compared to away, but if you felt that's what you needed to do to make your team balanced and ready for the rest of, or at least the next 4 or 5 game weeks, then potentially it could be a decent move. And there we go, guys. I'm actually going to call it here, 1 minute 17 in, because family are, of course, still around. We do have a newborn baby. If you didn't know, if you're new to the channel, I've got a 5-month-old kid. So we're not doing the really long streams that we did last year, but potentially in the future, really long streams will come back. Hopefully I've answered enough questions to kind of cover a lot of your guys' thoughts around this game week. If you do have more questions, we should be doing another stream at some point. So hopefully jump along that. It's going to probably be Thursday, most likely during the day again, unfortunately. Apologies to anyone that watches late at night if you're watching this replayed. Feel free to leave questions in the comments of this stream if you want the question answered next stream. And any really good ones I will pick and answer at the beginning of the stream for those guys that can't, of course, join the stream. But thank you guys so much for the support on this channel. Literally, you guys have been absolutely fantastic. Literally, this channel is growing so much recently. Really get me pumped to make content. 7,765. This morning, I just hit 7,700. We're going to probably hit 8,000 this week, which means 3,700 subscribers in about 2 months, which, if you know I was 4,700 subscribers at the beginning of pre-season, that's pretty good return. If you want to support the channel in any way, you can become a sponsor of this stream, like Blessing Arolo is, or you can super chat in the stream. Any stream will do. Also, if you super chat, I will see your question pop up and highlighted, and they will get answered as soon as possible, those questions, if you want to super chat. Also, in the links in the description, we have Patreon if you want to support the channel. Of course, we have had the new Patreon, Azim Khan. So thank you so much, Azim, for your new patronage, and all the rest of you. Again, that's another step for me to get closer to doing this full time and more often. So that's it. Thank you guys so much. I've been JNO. You guys have been awesome. And remember, it's all about the game.